Hi, and welcome to Waiter Nation. My name is Michael Fagan. I'm from Atlantic City. It's Wednesday, so Josh Ziegler joins me from Georgia. Also, Dan. Dan's a waiter from Georgia as well. As you know, Georgia is a big problem right now. The governor and the mayor are suing each other about masks. Restaurants are open and really with no limitations. In New Jersey here, our restaurants are still closed for indoor dining, only patio available. We have a lot to talk about. The $600 on your unemployment just ended this week. So next week, you're not going to get it. How do you feel about that? NFL tested 59 players tested positive on the NFL players. That's supposed baseball's supposed to start tomorrow. NHL is going to play in Canada. Schools are going to open. And something that pisses me off, Danny Meyer from New York, he's a restaurateur. About 5 years ago, he started this hospitality included, which means they raised the menu prices up 20%, and they eliminated tipping. They were just giving like $15 an hour to waiters. They stopped that because it's not really working. And now what they're trying to do is to pull all the tips to pay front and back of house. So for every $100 you're taking in, you're probably only going to keep 20 or 30, maybe. I have a lot to say about all that. So does Josh. So does Dan. What's going on, guys?
What's going on, Mike? How are you?
I'm good.
$600 ends. I think we're all real nervous about that. We're not sure what's going to happen with that. I mean, you got a bunch of people in Congress right now discussing it. I was watching a little bit of C-SPAN yesterday, and just part I came on. There was a Republican from Kentucky talking about our national debt and how much it's gone up and how it's passed our GDP, and therefore we can't, continue the way we're going with, bailing everybody out is what they say, So, I know that that's one man's opinion, but that opinion makes me nervous as to what's going to happen with this $600.
Well, here's what I'm hearing that they're saying. They're negotiating with the $1,200 stimulus check again that goes out to everybody. I feel pretty positive that they're going to do that. They're negotiating with the extra 600. It really pisses people off that some people are making more money, and a lot of people, like 64%, right, Josh?
64% is the number I saw.
More money for unemployment than they were when they were working. That pisses a lot of people off. So now they're negotiating. It's too difficult for these antiquated systems to figure out if you make 30 grand and I make 50 grand and Dan makes 100 grand, how much we're going to pay us all. So they're trying to blanket it. That's what they tried to do first time. Blanket it with $600. Now it looks like 2 to 4. And guys like me and you who are already taking a hit are going to take a bigger hit and are figuring out some numbers. If I lose another $200 or $300 a week.
Yeah, it's $800 to $1,000 a month.
And it's still against the law for me to work. I'm not legally able to go work in the job that I had, my 2 jobs. I was hustling, so you can't say I was laying around. So I say, how can you force me to stay at home and then say, we're not going to pay you that much?
Well, you and I are nervous about this. I think rightfully so. Daniel, a guy I work with in American Cut in Atlanta, he has a different opinion. He feels like the 600 is a given. They have to give it to us.
What do you think, Dan?
I don't think they have to, but I think they will, and for a number of reasons. Number one, from what I've seen, looking at the internet and such, these benefits are an expense to the government somewhere between $15 and $19 billion a week. Now, our economy is not doing extremely well. So I don't understand exactly, especially people who want to be reelected, and really there's 2 main issues going on right now, the economy and the racial tension in the country. But if you're going to go in the middle of that $17 billion a week out of the economy, that's a big hit on the economy. I really think that will create the economy to go way, way, way down. And I don't think they want to do that in an election year. I think number 2, you have the Democrats really bargaining for us, and the Republicans, as you said, people are just staying home. It's a disincentive. I don't think it's a disincentive. I don't think they're the jobs out there. And again, approximately 25 to 30 million people are collecting benefits. And when I look at the jobs that are listed on common sites like Craigslist,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a server as well, there's maybe 10 jobs a day, most of which are delivering pizza or Postmate or something like this. So they can say what they want to, that people want to lay around. It's not a matter of want to. And you said it yourself. It's not that we want to lay around, and I don't want anybody to tell me I'm laying around.
Yeah.
If there was something out there, we could get it.
I think a lot of jobs, and especially the jobs that you had, a lot of people I know are being called back to be a takeout person. They were a waiter making, good money every night in tips. Now they're not making tips and they're making minimum wage. So they're not unemployed anymore. That's one number off, but they're not adding to the economy at all. And like Josh and I said, like, hey, maybe these people, if you're making more and a lot more, like $300-400 a week more, maybe you'll buy a car. Maybe you'll go out to dinner. Maybe you go to the mall. Maybe you get, so this is
props up the economy.
This is the point. We give you money, you keep the economy going, so the guys selling cars can still stay in business, and so on and so forth.
Very recently, we had a $2 trillion tax cut. I would like to know, of these people who are making $300 or $400 a week, how much of that tax cut did they get? Zippo.
Well,
Zippo. You know what? You have the money when you want to give it to certain people, and I have no problem with these people making a little extra money. Yeah. This is part of the problem in this country, in my opinion. It's like people get to a certain point and it's like, I have mine, so F you. It's a bad attitude. I want everybody to do well. I want everybody to do well. You mentioned this gentleman and with the waiters paying his salary for his other employees. I wish him a lot of luck, because I don't know who the heck's going to work for him. You're not going to get very competent people who say, I'm going to pay all the rest of your workers. That's not the way we go into this field. I know Josh is very intelligent. I can tell from being on here with you that you're very intelligent. We could do many things. This is what we've chosen to do. Well, and we're in a very strange situation, because in a bar or restaurant, it's very difficult to say wear a mask, because you can't eat through a mask. You can't drink through a mask. We're in a particularly hard hit section. We didn't do this, know. So I mean, and I like you said, it's not really by our choice. They've had time. This really started, I believe, toward the beginning of the year. I mean, it came to a head and we were all getting furloughed in March, but they've had a lot of time to figure this out. And it seems to me we're in a worse position now than we were in the middle of March. Huge numbers, and so none of us even bring into play that even if.
I think what you realize too is, you brought it up. Yeah, bars and restaurants, you really can't wear a mask. So when this becomes more of a reality to people that, wow, I can really get sick, and I could bring it to my kids and I could bring it to my parents, maybe going to that bar or restaurant's not a good idea. So although there's kind of a demand in the restaurant industry right now for people to go out, and I'll tell you, my wife's been working for 6 weeks now. She got called in yesterday because their numbers went up so much. Typically they've been doing 50 covers during the week. They were up to like 91. So they're like, hey, can you work tonight? So they actually brought in an extra bartender. So right now the demand's there. But I agree with you, when people realize, oh my God, this is really bad. This virus thing is really bad. Now you have the president for the first time actually saying that, we should probably wear masks, and this is real. Maybe more people will realize that the demand for restaurants and bars is going to go down.
Well, right now it's summer, right? So it's summer in most of the country. I know you're in Georgia, so it lasts longer. So you can go out and you can enjoy a little better. A lot of people, like you said, 64% are making a little bit more money. So they can go and spend $30-40 at an outdoor venue and create that. Plus, we were trapped for 3 months. Your opinion, for the last couple of months, Josh, you've been telling me you're really not that worried. If I get sick, I'll get better. I'm healthy. And now you're changing a little bit. I'm going the other way. For a long time, I was thinking, I'm scared of this virus. And now I'm thinking, hey, everybody's saying, so what? I talk to smart people that, forget about politics, smart people that I think are smart. And they're telling me it's not really that big a deal. That's their personal opinion. And I think, well, am I wrong, or are they wrong? Or
Look, we don't, and here's the bottom line is, and you could take this for what it's worth, whether you say it's, you have your idea about it or my idea about it. They don't know a heck of a lot about it. And they're finding out more. Like I read something this week that people with type O blood are less susceptible to getting severe symptoms. People with type A blood are more susceptible. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that I have type O blood, which makes me less. But my son has type A blood.
Okay.
I think that a lot of people think we can just wish this away. The perfect example is when we, like you say, Georgia, things are spiking down here. We opened it wide open by mid-April. And it's easy to say, oh, it's just gone now. Well, logically, it is not gone. And I think the normal course of things, and you're talking about the demand being up, Josh, and maybe the demand will be up, but the numbers are also going up. And I think the natural course of things is that as the numbers go up, more and more and more people will get sick. And at that point, whether it's either one of you or me or anybody else, we're all going to know people, or it'll be us. Because as the numbers get bigger and bigger, the likelihood of us knowing somebody, our next door neighbor, anybody who becomes sick. Right now, a lot of us, it's a number. It's a number on a TV screen. It's abstract. It becomes very real when someone in your life gets it. And with these bigger numbers, all of us are going to meet people who get it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Once it gets personal, let me just go over a couple of these comments here. Pam says we don't want to stay home. What's going on, Pam? And let's see, Cindy. What's up, Cindy? Last week, one day she made $25 being a service bartender. Jennifer says there aren't any jobs.
There you go.
It's bad in Florida. And Lucy says that people don't care about us. I am about to cry when the 600 ends. It ended. And 50% capacity. How can a place support the staff? Right. Maybe you can support 2 or 3 or 4 guys, but not all 8 or 10 or 12 or 15. So we are getting hammered. Good point. And me and Josh have been talking about this, Dan, that it's not personal yet. That this really, we're collecting our money. I don't know anybody personally that got sick. I don't know anybody personally that died. That's just.
But you will as these numbers grow.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And look, I've said this every week on this show. My brother came down to visit from New York, and he couldn't believe that not everybody wore a mask. He's like, up in New York, he goes, they don't care if you're, red, blue, right wing, left wing. Everybody wears masks because it was so real to them. Because 32,000 people died in such a small, concentrated area and time period that everybody knew somebody. It was personal to everybody.
This will be the natural course of things.
And that's going to, that's going to start in Florida. It's going to start in Georgia where we live. I mean, Gwinnett County, Fulton County, there's some of the worst in the world, not just the country, but the world. So when the deaths start catching up, everybody's going to know somebody that died. And
that's when it changes. Because even the three of us, I think you become numb to this. You think to yourself, because you've been at home for quite a while now, and it's like we're not even factoring in the variable that if we go back to work, what about our own health? What about if you come home and give it to your kids, Josh? We're not even thinking about that. We're numb to it by this time.
You're starved out, and you're saying you're gonna lose your house. You're gonna start going bad on all your bills. So I'm gonna put on a mask and I'm gonna go hustle because that's what we are trained to do. Go hustle. But you're right. That's not a concern until people do. Now we have the perfect storm coming in, right? We have in the fall, we have schools opening up. We have professional sports going out. We're still closed down and we're getting ever closer to the election. If ball players get sick, start canceling games.
This is where it started, if you remember.
Maybe a ball player will die. Maybe a big name will die. I don't know. I mean, if you just go by numbers. Now you got school and kids. If it all goes off without a hitch, then we're clean sailing away, right? We're going to do great. We're going to start opening up restaurants. If the schools have problems, teachers are sick. The schools aren't back altogether. If kids are getting sick, God forbid, if children,
I don't think schools are going to open. I don't think schools are going to open.
And there's another factor that falls into this and that people aren't thinking about. When you get to fall and winter, and people keep saying, oh, this is just a flu. Well, at best, it's a flu that's lasting 12 months of the year, more or less. Oh, the heat's going to get it, whatever. I said, well, that's nonsense because look at Brazil. I mean, it's pretty hot there. Okay, but in addition to that, on any normal year, whether this existed or not, you have a pretty heavy traditional coronal flu. So this is going to have a big impact on our healthcare workers and on our hospitals. That time of the year is very busy for the medical community, just with the traditional flu that we've been dealing with for years. So when we get to the fall, then we have the traditional flu plus the coronavirus. So this is a double whammy that's coming at us. That's a huge factor that people are not looking at. I have some medical doctors on my street. They're terrified. They're terrified. One of them has written a very pointed letter to Governor Kemp. So, I mean, people aren't factoring these things in.
We just got a comment from Lucy, and she had said that she had it. And
right.
I'm interested. Did anybody else in your household get it? Was it that contagious, or were they asymptomatic? Did you even get them tested? How'd that go? Because that's interesting to me.
How does it go when you test positive and or you're sick? Now you can't work. You can't collect unemployment because you have to say that you were sick at home and that you weren't able to work. So you're not getting paid. I mean, it's a big mess. It's not a normal illness. I talked to Giovanna yesterday. She tests all her people. All her people come in and they do you have to answer questions and get your fever taken. And if you have a fever, you got to go home for like 3 days. This is what happens to our school children. I don't even know where to begin with that. I don't either. My kids are out of school. It's a hard subject. I saw some shows last night and they said just a question of numbers that certain children will die if every school is filled up. It's just a matter of numbers. And that is a hard thing to say out loud. I hope it doesn't happen. If everything goes off without a hitch, then we're great. But if things happen poorly, and like sports is in front of us, we know if Tom Brady gets sick, that's personal, even though, he's far away. We know if kids in our area start getting sick and teachers get sick. We know if you have the flu and you're not allowed to go to work because you have the flu, and we've done it our whole life. So a lot of things. And the main thing, how are we going to pay our bills?
Yeah, and another main thing is who's got insurance?
Nobody in my area. The union stopped paying everybody's insurance. I lost my insurance April 30th.
That's a biggie.
Yeah, no, that's 100%.
Keep hearing they have this great plan. It might be a great time for them to unveil it.
Oh yeah, that's right. I've heard about that. It's true. I mean, when we went out of work in March, I think that was the last. I'm like, well, I don't know how long this is going to last for. I don't know how bad it's going to be. At the time, there wasn't any $600 resolution passed. So I'm like, well, I can't. I've got to cut back on my expenses. I was paying $1,200 in health insurance a month. I'm like, I can't keep this. And I won't be able to pay my rent. I mean, my mortgage. I mean,
and you probably figured it would only last a month or 6 weeks, and you got.
I didn't. I thought it was going to be a while. Daniel and I were there on that day. Where
that's how it started with the NBA shutting down.
NBA, canceled their season. Tom Hanks has coronavirus. All this started breaking like every 15 minutes. There was a new story, and I'm like, this shit's real.
I looked at Josh square in the eye. I said, Josh, fasten your seatbelts. Stuff starts to move real fast, and it did.
Picture right here. This is Louisiana. And I look at this chart every day for the country, for different states, for your state, Georgia, and everything is accurate. It says Louisiana, as of yesterday, had 21,000 cases. You said this must have been a backlog, Josh.
Well, I mean, look at how it shoots up in like one little time frame. I'm like, they must have just had 3 weeks of tests come back.
This is more than like Texas and California together. Yeah, I mean
absolutely.
I don't see it on the news. I did see maybe a week ago when Louisiana governor was saying this is going to get bad, and also Mississippi was saying that they're shipping people out of state to get health care. I don't know. The president says cases in the interview last week. He said cases, not deaths. Cases. It's okay if we have a lot of cases. We have a low mortality rate. So that leads a lot of people to think it's really not that dangerous.
Well, I mean, one, we don't have a low mortality rate. I mean, that's just proven. We're like 7th worst in the world. with mortality rate and number one in cases. But beyond that, they don't coincide with each other at that particular time.
Right, there's a lag time.
Deaths will follow, just like positive rates will follow when you open up and tell everybody, hey, go to bars and don't wear masks. It takes a while for positive rates.
Yesterday.
It's just the way it goes. But deaths will, be sure to follow. It's just the way it works. And then when they really worry about death rates is when hospitals are overwhelmed. Because once hospitals are overwhelmed and can't take new patients in, then death rates in the entire country go off the charts. And that's what we worry about.
And that's where we're heading, unfortunately. Like you say, you open it up and there's a lag time. That's going to take 2 weeks. Well, it took longer than 2 weeks, but it's here. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, but people aren't getting sick. Well, I don't know. The hospitals are having huge surges. They're calling in refrigerated trucks for corpses. They're switching regular beds into ICU beds. They're running at 130% ICU capacity. Well, we don't know what the lag time is. The deaths will certainly follow. And I get, you keep hearing that, if you're this age, if you're 30, 40, it's not going to affect you. Well, I think a lot of 30 and 40-year-olds have 60-year-old friends and 70-year-old parents. And it's not like we're on some island. There's an island of 40-year-old people. There's an island of 70-year-old people. We all interact with each other. So whether they get it or not, they're going to interact with people that will get very ill from it. Even if their theory is, the young people aren't going to die. Well, young people interact with old people. A restaurant's a perfect example.
And we always have to go back to this. We don't know what's going to happen. They are learning new stuff about this. They have theories about it, every day. And we don't know. And I've heard some instances where kids, though they might be even asymptomatic or have minor symptoms, 6 months later can have, some sort of lung damage. And we don't know what's going to happen 5 years later. And this is why, we talk about Mike's like, well, I am less worried about actually getting the virus than I was months ago. And for myself, I'm more worried. I mean, this is why I have 2 young kids. And, is anything going back to work for even like the next 3 months, let's say, till, and I believe the vaccination will come out early 2021. But set that aside. So I'm like, is it worth it to, maybe have permanent damage to one of my kids or both of them to go back to work for 3 months? No, it's not. And that's how I feel now.
Well, that's how I think the athletes are looking at it. If you're a top athlete and conditioning is something that puts you there, right? And you get sick and you get bad symptoms. Some people don't, but say they're laid out for 10 days, fevers and can't breathe and all that. Now they come back in a year or two, are they as fast? Are they, the combines measure everything from, jumping. If you're off by an inch, that could lose you money. If your 40 time goes from 4.3 to 4.7, you're a dinosaur. You're slow now, And if that's because of COVID, I think, especially the big names, I would think about it twice for them.
We should all think about it, even if we're not pro ball players. And why is it so important for the Congress wants to make part of this latest bill protections for employers, protections. Nobody can sue a business. No one can sue an employer. And I don't have an opinion on it one way or the other, but it seems to me they think it's very possible people will get ill and suffer consequences, or they wouldn't worry about protecting these people.
I mean, but that's always been part of their agenda. I mean, they always wanted caps on being able to sue a doctor or a hospital. That's always been part of the agenda.
However, there could be 100,000 cases against 100,000 businesses. Anybody gets sick anywhere, they blame it on their business. I don't know enough about it to really jump in and give you both sides, but I would say that if you're a business and you're open, you do need protection. Like Olive Garden could go out of business, right? They have 10,000 waiters and they could have 5,000 suits. And, so I don't know enough about it, but I would say that businesses won't open up if they don't have that protection.
And I agree with that. Like I said, I don't have an opinion on it either, but it seems to me that they're concerned that enough people will become ill
Yeah.
That's a concern. And that tells you a big part of the story. Nobody's going to get sick. Well, then why would anybody sue anybody if nobody gets sick? Let's follow it logically.
Another thing that what they're looking for as they're forecasting our income. Here in Atlantic City, we have a thing called a TEPA agreement. We make an agreement with the IRS that we are, by contract, obligated to claim a certain amount of dollars per hour as our income. If we do this contract with the IRS, we will not get audited for the last year, this year, or next year. So in a good restaurant, let's say it's going to be $30 an hour. No matter, if you're setting up or breaking down or you're waiting on people, it goes by sales. So it's $30 an hour. Well, the IRS have come out and said your TIPA agreement we're going to lessen it by 60%. So they're looking forward and they're saying, we know when you're open, you're going to lose 60% of your income. That's a concern. That's a concern. So if you're worried about me making a couple dollars more right now, which I'm not personally, but a lot of people are, and in the future, when my restaurant opens up, my income drops 60%. So a guy making $1,000 a week is going to make $400 a week, cannot survive. Our business is in trouble that way. And all these things that we talk about, like, the COVID, the spreading, the school, the sports, everything comes back to us because we are the enemy, right? Our bars are the enemy. Eating without a mask is the enemy. And we're the ones that suffer. I feel people just say, well, go get another job. And you guys know as well as I do that our income is not easily replaced to go walk into someplace else and just get any pickup job. We would need to be mid-management level to have our incomes be replaced doing something else in a skill that we're not trained for the last 20 years like I am. Steve, what's up? Steve's from Pittsburgh. There are class action lawsuits going on in Pittsburgh towards companies because they are requiring masks to enter the grocery store. So they're suing companies because it's against their rights. I just tell you, I don't get that.
That's a civil lawsuit. I wouldn't think that that's a class action.
Right. But I say this, wear the fucking mask. We're all out of work fucking 4 months. Wear the fucking mask. Don't be a jerk off. That's what I say to everybody. You don't agree with me? Fight me when you see me at ShopRite. But I mean, wear the mask.
Daniel actually had a fight.
Yes, I had a situation like that. And I got accosted for wearing a mask. It was not a very good move on this gentleman's part, and I use that word loosely. But, he started in with me. By the third time, that was it. Game was on. There were cashiers, the male cashiers coming up from behind their registers. It was about to go down. But this guy would not let up. And it was basically, you're a liberal and you listen to Wolf Blitzer and blah, blah, blah. I said, get out of my fucking face, okay? Before I knock your teeth out. So people are very strange about it. And I've been on this planet for 60 years, and I'm going to tell you something. You don't talk about my civil rights. Can I come walking into a store naked? I don't know. For years, since I've been a little kid, no shoes, no shirt, no service. I didn't hear anybody crying about their civil liberties. When you think about your civil liberties, in this particular case, as far as I'm concerned, you can shove them. Why don't you think about the people who have to take care of you in a hospital? These healthcare workers are putting themselves at risk and working huge long shifts. Some are committing suicide. I mean, just doing the unthinkable because you're too irresponsible to put on a mask. I mean, this is the only weapons we have is washing our hands, social distancing, and putting on a mask. That is not a lot to ask people to do, in my opinion.
And I
feel if you don't, it's selfish.
I say too, I know that you're going to infect people, but I say this, I'm selfishly saying if everybody wears a mask, I can go back to work.
Exactly.
That's what's keeping me from going back to work. These huge numbers. If we get the numbers under control, I can go back to work. I don't know everything about COVID so far. I've been 100% wrong on, but it seems to be the consensus today that if every person in the country wears a mask, we can open up the country. That means to me that I can go to work, and maybe at Christmas I can visit my parents in their house instead of waving from outside. So even besides for the sickness, if you don't think you're going to get sick, if you don't think it's important, the numbers have to go down for people to go to work. Put on a mask so I can go back to work. That's what I ask people.
And it's very true, but it's not even just
you. It's opening up the economy, so we can get back to some sense of normal.
Well, Josh, you and I spoke earlier today. We spoke earlier today, and I won't use any names, but you look at our leadership, and they showed something in a hotel 2 nights ago, and here you have one of the people who says you'll get these benefits over my dead body running around through a party with a room full of people, and another leader who's a little bit above him without masks. I mean, you're the same person telling me over our dead body you'll get this, Well, right. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I'm not making a threat. I wouldn't have a problem with it, though. I mean, you're the one saying we shouldn't get our benefits, and you're the one running around without a mask. And if you would put a mask on, other people we wouldn't have to worry about the benefits. So we'd have a job making a heck of a lot more than $965 a week.
And also, let's take a survey. I'm wondering how people. I want you to chime in and let us know what you think. How much of the $600 are we going to get? Anywhere from $0 to $600. Mike, you're saying about 300 to 400.
I'm optimistically thinking 400.
Okay, I'm thinking. I take them at their word, 250 to 400. That's what I'm taking, and that's scary. And Daniel says, so. I mean, it's not a contest, That's just what our opinions at this point.
The first time around, the Republicans didn't want to give us anything. When push came to shove, and after they put on their show, the Democrats won.
We've talked a lot
to it. I'm thinking 600.
No, I hope so. Let's switch up a little bit.
Hold on. Can I make one last point?
Yeah, go ahead.
And my thing is this. We've talked a lot about COVID-19 numbers and how it lags. My thing is economic numbers. And the problem is going to be is that people make a certain amount of money and therefore have a certain lifestyle. And I'm not talking about the excess part of their lifestyle. I'm not talking about, going on vacation in the Bahamas or something like that. I'm just talking about the typical bills they have. And you take people like us that all make between, let's say, 70,000 and 90,000 in a given year doing what we do. And you tell us that we're going to have to make do with $35,000 a year. We're going to lose our places that we live. We're going to default on our car loans, and that's when the economy gets really super affected. Now,
and that won't take long.
People that are making, the 64% that are making more money than they did when they were working, all that extra money they're making, they're not pocketing, they're spending it. So that's good for the economy. And, they're able to pay their bills. But when you take something away from somebody, again, they had a lifestyle. Now you're going to see evictions go way up. You're going to see, and they're not going to be evictions from the people that were making $20,000 last year and are making $40,000 this year with the $600. No, they're not getting evicted. We're getting evicted. We're defaulting on our
minimum income, $60,000, $70,000, $50,000. They're paying $1,500, $1,800 a month. Living a normal life, sending their kids to school, just trying to survive. And now that $60,000 turns into $35,000. Their rent stays the same, and you're staying up at night questioning how you're going to get through all this. But let me ask you this. I think sports is very personal to all of us. And you can see that when Kobe Bryant died, right? That was national. That was like a tragedy, right? So as sports start up, if some of our heroes start getting sick, that's a big deal. Another thing, I was watching Bryant Gumbel on HBO last night, and somebody brought up a point that on Friday before the game, if 4 or 5 athletes come up positive, they might have to forfeit on Sunday. And you made a good point, Josh, that like the linemen in the locker room, and I know from when I played, the offensive linemen are all grouped together. The defensive linemen are grouped together. The cornerbacks, the D-backs, all that. So you're not going to lose sparing people.
No, you're going to lose whole units. I mean, football, anybody that knows football, I mean, that's devastating.
You're going to lose your entire offensive
line. Yeah, right? Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So then what do you do? And this is what could happen, But if this happens and a season can't finish, or there's 4 or 5 forfeits, it just makes it more of a disaster. It's a disaster on top of a disaster.
And look, there's a precedent for this. I mean, we've seen, one guy get sick in the NBA, and then like 4 teammates test positive, a week later. I mean, there's already a precedent that's been set for this. This is going to happen. I'm not saying I'm against it. I really want football to come back. I need a distraction. I think tomorrow's game between the Yankees and the Nationals is going to be one of the most watched sporting event since like it's going to be up of Super Bowl proportions, just because people have been longing for sports.
Let me just answer Anthony. What's going on, Anthony? How are you, man? So you just went down to Ocean City, Maryland, and you guys were like, everybody was looking at you strange, basically, because you were taking social distancing measures and wearing masks. That's what we do here in New Jersey. Maybe that's why our numbers are so low. I don't know, but I know Josh in Georgia, when his friends and family go to visit him, they say it's another world. It's not what we experience here, Anthony. And I don't know, Cindy. It's always in the middle class.
Well, you took your trip to Florida, Josh, and what did you see down there? It was worse than here. No waiters wearing masks. Nothing. Like nothing happened. It's like we're gonna wish it away.
Well, that's why the numbers are so high. But then again, the other argument is, case numbers is not the biggest deal. And I'm not smart enough to know the difference. I'm just watching the news. I watch all the channels, the right and the left. And they say, 75,000 cases in a day. It's just cases. The mortality rate isn't that high. And most people think it's not going to get to them. But football.
Yeah, but look at the hospitals in these areas that are spiking.
I know. I wonder. I talked to a guy from Florida last week. From Tampa, and he goes, "That's not that big a deal. We're okay." That was his impression. Josh, you said that your life in Georgia, which makes the news every day, you said your life doesn't really change that much as far as going out and coming home.
I go, we have a community pool. We go there. Nobody wears a mask.
Right.
It was packed on Sunday. You're not going to wear a mask in 95-degree heat at the pool. You can't. But yeah, I could see the county I live in is Gwinnett County. It is one of the highest positive rates in the entire country, and they're starting to take it very seriously. We had thought school starts a little earlier down here than it does up north. We start August 5th. They'd first moved it back to August 12th, but we had thought all along school's starting, kids are going back to school. It just came out this week. No, they're not. They've canceled school in person. They're going to be doing everything digitally, and they're figuring it out where it's going to be a regular 8 to 2:30 day. It's not going to be like what we did at the end of last year when it was basically an hour's worth of work per child. It's going to be a full school day, with basically like Zoom classes and whatnot. So they don't want to open up the schools. And I think they got a major pushback from teachers unions, which makes sense. And I could be mistaken because I don't know if they have teachers unions in Georgia. But either way, the teachers got together and, they just like us, they don't necessarily, want to take that risk. If they could do their job without taking the risk of exposing themselves and their family to the virus, it makes sense.
Yeah, well, in New Jersey, it just came out, and I'm not 100% sure, I'm just reading news off the newspaper, that you're going to have the choice when the school season begins. Do you want to stay?
We had the choice too, but they realized, this is just getting much, much worse. And they don't want, to add to it because having school is just going to add to it. And, I was of the opinion that I want my kids to go back to school. It seems like more of a sense of normalcy. And I just kind of felt like that's the way I should err on. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad that the decision was taken away from me.
Well, you guys have kids. Yeah, I don't even have kids, but I have 2 dogs, and I'm taking it seriously.
They're doing the prudent thing by making school not be in person. It's prudent. And New Jersey is going to do the same thing. Because if you have this spiking around the country the way it is, they got to do something. They're not going to send kids to school.
And it's not just cases, really. If everybody would just take it seriously, coining a great phrase, what do you have to lose? I mean, if we had taken it seriously since March, our economy would probably be reopened. I mean, we wouldn't be having this huge problem that we're having. The longer we refuse to take this seriously, the longer this is going to go on. This just seems, to me, regardless of what left or right people think.
Yeah,
it's just
the other argument here is how does a restaurant business survive when you can't enforce these rules nationwide, right? How do we move forward when it gets cold, right? The numbers don't add up. I don't put money in front of safety, just making a point that a lot of businesses and local samples won't survive come September. That's true.
Of course they won't survive. I mean, demand's just not going to be there. When we talked about this, when you talk about your TEPA agreement and 60%, how can a restaurant survive doing 60% less business? They can't. You know, and we're talking about corporate restaurants that can, you know, make big differences in, like, making one pot less coffee a day. How is a mom and pop place going to survive? It won't. So we need huge government intervention. We need a vaccination, and we need people to feel confident to go out and spend money. That's what we need.
And we need
otherwise, our industry is not going to survive. And that's
I think all of us are hesitant to spend money. Even if we have extra money, I know myself, I'm hesitant to spend it because, again, I don't know, based upon what was just said in the last 45 seconds, where are we going to be in 6 months?
True.
Our life has been pulled off from beneath us. Even if we come back and we make less, but there's a very good chance that in the fall, a lot of these restaurants will close. We have no idea where we're going. We're like bobbers floating around an ocean somewhere, saying, I really don't have anything to base any of this on. So whatever I can put away, I'm putting away. I'm not really even going out there and spending it. But you think of a restaurant going on there, you think where our restaurant is in a complex of different shops in the city we live. Well, also the landlords don't get their rent and they go under.
Well, that's
then,
too. It's
it's just a domino effect across the economy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Exactly.
But that's why we take it seriously.
We need the boost. We need the $600 a week boost, and not just us, not just our industry, but so many industries out there. We need that to get everything propped up.
And we're going to get it. Mark my words.
Daniel, I hope you're right.
I hope you're right too. So one thing, the reason why I started Waiter Nation 5 years ago is because Danny Myers was on a campaign. He started something called Hospitality Included. He took away tips. Tips are not allowed. He raised his menu prices 20%, actually 21, 22%. And then what he did with that money was he paid front of the house and back of the house an hourly wage. I know people that work there. They told me it was $15 an hour, and it was a percentage of sales, 3 or 5%. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what it was. So this really pissed me off because basically the restaurant owner was saying, we want your tips to pay our payroll. Now, in the last
exactly what it is.
Wouldn't take me long to react to that. I'm out the door.
In the last, $15 an hour, and he has very upscale dining, which those guys were making easily, and they're in Manhattan, right? So you got to make $15 grand a week.
I mean, let me break it down this simple for you. I mean, if you have a job like that, let's say you're making $70,000 a year, okay? Good job, right? He's basically taking that and saying, you're going to make $40,000 a year, and my kitchen guys, who now I don't have to pay, they're going to make $40,000 a year, and whatever profit that you're saving on paying the kitchen staff goes into his pocket.
Definitely.
I mean, but it's really simple. I mean, you're going to get $40,000 a year talent. You're not going to get $70,000 a year talent.
Also,
we've had that discussion at work many times, haven't we, Josh?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, here's the thing, too. What I would always compare it to, it's a different skill set. To say that a waiter and a cook are the same skill set is not true. And I'm not saying we're better or worse.
Nobody goes into a law office and says, listen, I don't like the disparity in pay between the secretary and the paralegal and the lawyer. So we're going to, do profit sharing, and everybody's going to make about the same amount. Well, the person who went to law school, that's absurd.
The real estate agent that sells the house and gets the 5%. Versus and his or her 5% has to pay the guy that put the sheetrock up. It's a different set. There's a different, the guy that put the sheetrock up and that painted the place, they're really not making that much money. The salesperson just made $15,000 in commission. We're going to take your $15,000 and we're going to give it to the sheetrock guy. Different skills. Different skill set. The sheetrock guy cannot sell the house, and the real estate agent cannot do sheetrock. So it's already set how much each person gets paid based on your skill set. And you know what? I'll say it. No line cook can do what I can do. If you're a line cook and that's what you do, you can't come out front and do what I do. You can't do it. I don't know that I could do their job, but it's a different skill set. And to say everybody in my restaurant is equally skilled, and at $15 an hour, they can say, Josh, you only make $15 an hour. We need you to wash dishes tonight. And you'd be like, what? Well, yeah, don't worry about the tips. You don't get tips anyway. Go wash dishes.
I wouldn't be saying it to Joshua because Joshua wouldn't be there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Josh. And, I look at this screen and I look at the three of us, and I've said this to you at work, Josh. We're more the older guys. I've been doing this for 46 years. This is not a job. This is the career I chose. Between the three of us, I can pretty much guarantee there's 100 years of experience. And it is a skill set. There's a certain way of reading people and knowing what they want and knowing what they don't want. There's different levels of service. It's an art, and I for one expect to get paid for it. So if someone wants to reach into my pocket, you can forget it. You'll hear the breeze as I fly out the front door.
It's disrespectful, is what I would say.
Yeah, it is. And what I tell Josh, I've said this so many times. I said, you know what it comes down to? If you don't put a value on what I do, I will. And you can define that however you like to define that. But you got to put a value on what you do, period. If someone doesn't want to, well, then forget it. I don't want to work for you. I
would also say that the timing was perfect for Danny Meyer, as he owns Shake Shack as well. And the stock made him like he was worth like $500 million at the time. So if his restaurant suffered a little bit, he was still worth $500 million. That just
he's happy to take that PPP money now. So I mean, is there? I didn't read the article. Is there a reason why he's throwing in the towel?
Well, yeah, it's just not working. So what he's going to do is he wants to pull tips. Now I don't know how this will go in Atlantic City where I am. I walk out every night with cash in my pocket. Where you are in Georgia, in a lot of restaurants, everything is your paycheck. So I don't know how that will work. But still, there's always a way for them to get our 20%. If you look up all the big restaurateurs and the big chefs, right, they have settlements and lawsuits against them from stealing the tips. Because what they're doing is they pay a guy $2 an hour, and then he's doing like mopping the floors for 3 hours a day, which is much cheaper than if you got a cleaning person to come in. But you're only making $2 an hour, so dust off all the wood in the place. That's a lawsuit. And a lot of other things. They just straight steal the money. They all want our 20%. They all want our 20%. Nobody wants to do our job. And I will say this, that in a restaurant, you are probably working harder than any other job. It's easier than digging ditches, than roofing. I mean, it's not easier than digging ditches or roofing because we got to do it with a smile. We have extreme amount of pressure on us. We are dealing with different personalities. And you're usually in the weeds. To make money, you got to get in the weeds, and you got to handle the weeds efficiently. So, and they all want our 20%. Even in a breakfast place, you can make good money. You work Sunday morning. A lot of people work Sunday morning in a breakfast place. They make their $200-300, and then they're off all week, watching the kids, doing their regular 9 to 5, doing whatever else. It's a good way. If you can handle it, it's a good way to make money.
Yeah, as you said, it's a sense of urgency business. We spend a couple hours in the beginning of the shift complaining and talking, blah, blah, blah. Then we run around with our hair on fire for a few hours. And then we spend a couple hours, just winding down the last of the service and a little bit of side work and go home. But it is definitely, there's probably no other business where you have to multitask. And like you said, hold it together and be pleasant to people of all different personalities.
Listen to this. The more money we make, meaning the more people we wait on, the greater chance you have of pissing somebody off and getting fired too. That's added pressure. When you're busy, it makes it harder to do your job well, but yet you make more money. So I mean, it's the only kind of job that I can think of where that's the case.
Well,
it's also competitive.
A lot of restaurants have those let me read Anthony. It failed miserably the first time. Tip shares didn't work. Europe is built on a different restaurant style, and tips are distributed. It doesn't work here. It's a different system, and something you just can't change something overnight. I agree, Anthony.
Right, it's a whole different culture too. I mean, the way that they look at it.
A lot of restaurants have secret shoppers, and you come in and then you get scored, right? If you dip below like an 80%, you're going to lose your job. You know, I mean, corporate gets a hold. Hey, Josh got a report. He got a 67% on the shopper. Get rid of him. You're gone for one unsatisfactory review on you, right? Also, in most worlds that I live, 3 complaints a year where you have to sit down and talk to the boss, you're also fired. So every night, that extreme pressure that lady that's breaking your balls unmercifully could be a shopper. And if you lose it for a half a minute, your score dips and you lose your job. So there's that constant pressure all the time.
And some people, for no reason, just don't like you. You might look like a guy who used to, you know, date his wife before. You know, some people just don't like you. And
by the time they got to your table, you know, the hostess, the maitre d', by the time the bartender, something happened prior. I work in a casino. If you lost money ahead of time,
oh yeah, that was always tough,
right? They come in pissed off, and now it's my fault because the steak came out medium well instead of medium rare, and now I'm a prick, and now I'm getting a write-up and 2 more in the next 12 months, and I lose my job.
Also, another thing is that anything that goes wrong, you know, within your control and many things outside your control affects what you make.
Yes.
You know, absolutely. Because if the steak's burnt, or you know, the food runner dropped the tray of food on the way up the stairs, and it takes another half hour to make the whole dinner for them again, you know who doesn't get tipped? You.
You don't get tipped. And also, everything, when they go on Yelp and they say service was so-so, that could be anything from
it's a reflection of you, right? Exactly, and it has nothing to do with maybe what you did.
It could be slow, many things, many factors.
Could be the valet guy, you know.
Exactly.
The valet guy was wrong. They waited long at the door. They had a 9 o'clock reservation, and they didn't get seated until 9:15. The Manhattan wasn't the way they make it at home. Service was terrible. You know, the cream of spinach didn't come until 2 minutes after the steaks hit the table. Service was terrible. You know, we take everything.
Oh, we take that. I mean, like that, I understand. That's part of the reason why I don't want to share my tips.
Right.
I mean, because we take that on. We take that burden on. Obviously, all of us have been in the industry a long time. We've flourished in this system. So I'm not complaining about the system. But what I'm not doing is sharing my tips.
Right. Well, you have that same peer pressure on the floor with your peers, or people who are supposedly your peers. You're not equal to. We have waiters that have been on the floor for 3 years, waiters who have been doing it for 40 years, and there's a big difference in service. And so you even have that pressure on the floor.
Here's the thing: if I'm paying the back of the house, right? I'm giving them $40 a night. I'm putting in a pool for the back of the house, $50 a night, and I go back there and I tell them I want spinach with no garlic, or I want a fucking steak between medium rare and medium. I better fucking get it, because now I'm paying you. And your money depends on my tip. So that would change the arrogance of the kitchen, which right now I don't have a problem with. If they're arrogance, it's a plus to the integrity of the food, right? That the chef won't do between medium and medium well and all that. But if I'm paying you, I'm the boss now. Just like your busboy, just like the runners, just like everybody else as part of your support staff. You're part of my support staff now. Understand it. I run shit. That's my table, right?
Yeah, and again, I look at this screen. I know Josh very well, and I can tell you're very confident, and you do well at what you do. It's very interesting. I look at some of the young waiters. We work in a section of town that's pretty upscale, known to be upscale. A lot of people are very pleasant. A lot of people are difficult, but only if you don't understand the dynamic. I tell the younger servers, and this is again why we make money. I said, someone says to you, for example, does this steak look medium? And they're inferring it doesn't, and it might be perfect. No, sir, it doesn't. What can I do to help you? I said, don't ever open a can of worms. You know, someone says it's bright red, and they look at you and say it's green. Well, you know what, sir, it is green. You're absolutely right. What else can I do for you? And this comes with a lot of years of experience and talent, and this is how we make our money. You know, so. This is really my feeling about it. It's more than the mechanics. The mechanics, I can teach anybody to do the mechanics. It's the nuances. It's the way of knowing how to read people and make people happy. A big thing in our company, I think it is a big part of what we do, is empathy. We like making people happy. That's why we do what we do. You know, but a lot of people make it kind of difficult for us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Danny Meyer found out the hard way that you don't want to get rid of people like us. I mean, that's going to ultimately hurt your business, because one thing that we're not saying is that we can do all that. A lot of people can do all that, but we can do all that and also sell people. And that's what we do. You know, get them to get their seafood towers, get them to get from $120 bottle of wine to a $250 bottle of wine. And that's where, you know, everybody benefits from that. Owners, obviously us, because we make our money a percentage of sales. And therefore, if you got a busier restaurant that's making more money, they could pay their kitchen staff more. So you don't want to lose people like us. You don't want to piss people like us off. It's not.
You guys are both very experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. I mean, when you get to a certain level, a management team really is kind of lucky, because you're pretty much not stepping on their toes, but you're pretty much managing the restaurant. It's in your best interest to make sure the restaurant goes well.
You're self-sufficient without it.
When you have good guys you have a good crew, then you know, as a general manager, you don't have to micromanage. You know, everything's going well, and guys like us will go to you when there is an issue, and everything's just taken care of. Tanya, I wish you good luck. You just refinanced your house and you got a car payment. Where are you from? But yeah, I've always had a chip on my shoulder about, you know, when I go back home and I see people and they're like, why aren't you a restaurant manager? How come you're not a manager? How come you're not running shit? I think, well, you know, it's not even worth it to go into it.
The pickup.
That's true. And Danny Meyer.
It's true. And who wants the headache?
Danny Meyer says that a lot, that, you know, he doesn't think it's right. And it is a weird business that the boss makes less than the employees in a lot of cases. You might have 4 or 5 assistant managers that are making $20,000 or less than the waiters on the floor. And then you have a GM that's making good money that's comparable. But they see when you kill it, you got a party of 16 one night and you walk out with $750. And this isn't all over, but there's enough people that are making big money that you can relate to me. And if you're not, you're still doing well. But you walk out with $750. Your boss hates you for the rest of the week. That's what, you know, and then they have to come in the next day and say, oh, you know, your bread service was off last night. Your wine sales need to increase. And they're telling you this because there's how many pre-shifts have I been to? And the boss in charge goes, hey, you guys make a lot of money. This is what you know, wait, what other job does the boss make less and come out in a pre-shift meeting or a group meeting and say, you guys make a lot of money? I don't know.
You're bringing back memories. You've been out waiting for a little while. Bringing back memories.
More a server than a manager, and we work 20, 30 hours a week. Yeah, I had 3 daughters, single dad, and to raise them, I needed that flexibility and the income to do both. And I did, and that's why I always stayed with what I am. But it's just a weird, you know, if all the secretaries, like you said, Josh, were making more than the lawyers, it would be a weird balance in the office, right? So, hey, we buy them all drinks when we go out. That's why, you know, it's a fun place to hang out. Whenever who buys the drinks when everybody goes out after work? Managers don't put up money. The cooks don't put up money. The waiters buy everybody drinks, right? We buy everybody drinks. Bill comes at the end of the night. It's $500. There's 3 waiters there. They put in the money. They tip big. Everybody goes home. That's what we do.
That's what we do.
That is what we do.
Anyway, it was a good day. I like the conversation today, Dan. I appreciate you coming on. It was fun.
Well, I enjoyed meeting you as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm on here with 2 pros, you know, and I can appreciate it. And it's like I said, after not doing it for almost 6 months, it's kind of like a fun trip down memory lane. Some of the stuff, even especially toward the end there. You know?
I mean, yeah, I get a little withdrawal from not working, man. This is healthy. This is really healthy to get on and talk about it. I miss it. I do miss working.
I miss parts of it.
Of course. I mean, all work sucks, you know, but it's what we do. And I like the action. I like talking and the camaraderie between the other guys. That's what I think I like most about this. And also hearing from people around the country that dial in and they're going through the same things that we're going through, just in a different way. But so it makes me feel related to other people. I have a whole bunch of, if you ever want to come on, shoot me a message and I'll talk to you online. We'll do a podcast together. You got to have an interesting story. You don't have to be in the business. I have educators coming on, politicians. I have an event planner coming on Jason Goldfarb, he's with Near Dark Entertainment, is going to come on with me on Friday. They have a lot of the same issues that we're going through. So me and Josh talk off camera all the time about bringing different people in. Just want to have an interesting conversation. If you love Trump, great. If you hate Trump, great. Don't tell me that you love the Confederate flag. I won't have you on. But we can definitely have a smart conversation about politics and how it affects our industry and affects anything else. What else, fellas?
Well, I'll end it on my part saying we are going to get the 600. And as far as this $1,200 it's not that I'm an ungrateful person, but what the hell is $1,200 going to do for anybody?
I want it
That
both.
doesn't even cover someone's rent for a month.
Give
Give me a break.
I want the consistent money every week. That's what I want. I can plan out a life. You give me $1,200 or.
And we've earned it. I've worked for 46 years and I don't get a dime. And I pay for a lot of things and I want it.
Cindy, always good seeing you too and hearing from you. Good hearing from everybody.
Yeah,
See you
for
on
our
Friday.
guests that are on every week, we love it. We love having you.
Thanks for inviting me, guys.
Dan,
Daniel, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
My pleasure.
All right. We'll see you again soon.
All right.
Here we are.